Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us and being here today. I know you're trickling in, so I'm just going to give a very brief welcome. My name is Devin Bella, and I'm a co-founder and organizing member of Art and Climate Action. If you are just joining us for the first time, Art and Climate Action is a California-based collective of artists and arts professionals advocating for sector-wide sustainability. And we host a community meeting like this every first Friday of the month. And our core group of members also meet weekly on a number of activities, including carbon audits, sustainability research, and related programming. So if you're interested in learning more or getting involved, please let us know, and I will put our contact information into the chat toward the end of the meeting. Our community meeting today will focus on sustainability action, from taking the first steps to building a global network. And we're absolutely thrilled to present this meeting in collaboration with Key Culture and Galleries Commit, and to have with us today Caitlin Southwick, founder and executive director of Key Culture. Shortly, Caitlin will speak about the tools and resources available through Key Culture to make sustainability achievable. And then you can ask all of your burning questions, from sustainable collection care to installation practices and beyond, at the end. And before I hand over the Zoom baton to Caitlin, I just also want to quickly remark on Key Culture's achievement for not only creating so many wonderful in-depth resources that put sustainability into context for our field, but for also making them so easy to access and to navigate. So kudos to you, Caitlin, and everyone at Key Culture. And on behalf of ACA, thank you for being here. A few more details as we get started. First, as an icebreaker, I usually like to ask everyone to say hello into the chat and introduce themselves, and possibly answer a question or share a thought. And so with Key Culture as our guest, and in the spirit of connecting with others, if you wouldn't mind, just put your name into the chat, introduce yourself, and perhaps highlight someone else. This can be an individual or organization, someone who's meeting the challenge of the climate crisis and inspiring others to do the same. This can be anyone in our field of art and culture, or even beyond, an artist, a conservator, an art handler, or gallery, museum worker, anyone that you can share with our group today. And second, we will be recording the meeting today and posting a version of it online. So we ask that you please mute yourselves throughout the presentation. And if you have any questions or comments, please pop them into the chat or raise your virtual hand at the end, and we will get to those. And if you'd like to turn off your video, now would be a good time to do so. And lastly, our meeting this morning will be exactly 30 minutes. We have about 15 to 20 minutes for the Key Culture presentation, followed by 10 minutes for questions and answers at the end. And in case you can't make it to the end, I can provide access to minutes for anyone who's here with us this morning, or at another point. So thanks again, everyone. And I'm delighted to welcome Caitlin to the Zoom floor.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Devin. And thank you for your kind words. It's for me, always the biggest reward is hearing that what we're doing is useful. So I'm so grateful for that. And a huge shout out to Art and Climate Action. One of the most important things about any sort of work in sustainability is communicating it. And so hosting these community sessions and being able to get groups like this together is absolutely essential when it comes to sustainable action, because if you don't know what to do, you're not going to do it. So this is really a special event, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. So hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin Southwick, founder and executive director of Key Culture. I'm going to be doing a presentation today about what we're doing at Key Culture and some ways that we can help support you. talking a little bit about waste materials, because I know that that was a topic we had originally been discussing in this collaboration today. And we will have time at the end for Q&A, but please do feel free to interrupt me at any point in time if you'd like to ask a question. If you're anything like me, by the time we get to the end, you've forgotten your question. So please do feel free to just interrupt and ask as we're going through the presentation. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. And once again, I can't see you all while I'm presenting. So if you do have a question, do feel free to just interrupt. You don't need to raise your hand. But, and of course, if you'd like to post something in the chat, we could talk about it later. That's also very welcome. All right, so once again, welcome today. I wanted to start by giving you a little bit of background about myself and how Key Culture started. I am an art conservator by training. I was a stone conservator for 8 years. I had the coolest job. I've done some of the most amazing things, I think, ever. I did research projects at the Getty. I worked at the Vatican and the Uffizi. I was part of the first team to go down to Rapa Nui and work on the Moai statues. So I loved my job and I loved what I was doing with it. You know, preserving the world's cultural heritage for future generations was incredibly valuable to me, not only from a social perspective, but from a personal perspective. But this is a picture of me restoring a marble statue at a historical house in Rotterdam. And you can see by all of the personal protection equipment that I'm wearing that what I'm spraying onto this marble sculpture is very toxic. And that all washed right down into that grass and into our streams. And the dogs were running around eating the grass, and it just churned my stomach. I wanted to figure out a way that my practice could be less environmentally damaging. And so that kind of started me in this whole journey of looking at culture and sustainability as a nexus. I started an organization called Sustainability and Conservation, and shout out to Daniela, who I see is here from our student ambassador program at SIC, where we were looking at ways to marry these two, environmental responsibility and art conservation. And through there, I was invited to be a member of the working group on sustainability for the International Council of Museums, and opened up a whole can of worms where I realized that it's not just conservation that has this desire to be sustainable, but not actually doing anything about it. Museums, artists, galleries, vendors, suppliers, there was this whole large willingness and inaction. And so I wanted to figure out a way to tackle that. One of the things that I've come to realize about sustainability is that it feels overwhelming. I recently came up with this analogy, and this is I'm a total jigsaw puzzle nerd, and I love doing jigsaw puzzles. And so I'm doing one upside down. And this was, to me, just struck me as completely impossible. You look at this and it's like, okay, every single piece looks exactly the same. How on earth would you possibly start fitting that together? And that's the same with sustainability. When we're talking about sustainability, we're not just talking about environmental impact. We're not just talking about climate change. We're not just talking about energy use or materials. When you start actually delving into it, you realize that everything is interconnected, that waste is connected to materials, that is connected to energy, that is connected to carbon, that is connected to human rights, social justice, climate justice, and it all wraps around the economy and the financial restraints of our field. So when we start really thinking about what we can do, it can feel completely and totally impossible. But what we've come to realize is that sustainability, while it seems overwhelming, it's not about picking out individual pieces. It's about seeing the whole with a different lens. And as I started doing this puzzle, I started looking at it not for the colors, but for the shapes. I was trained to look at a puzzle for the picture. But when you flip it upside down and you start looking at the shapes, you can start picking out patterns and starting to see how things fit together. And before you know it, you have a framework and you can actually start thinking that this is going to be quite easy. So some of the things that are really important when we're looking at sustainability and culture is that this is something that is not just for one person. It's not just for one field. It needs to be a holistic approach. every stakeholder in the field has to be involved in these conversations. And not only that, it also needs to be international. One thing that I've learned through Kifutures is that we have all the solutions we need. We just need to talk about them, and finding inspiration from people in other parts of the world is highly effective in terms of finding solutions. In addition to that, sustainability is not something that you can cover in a half-hour session and a community meeting. It's not something that you can cover in a 6-week course, and it's not something that you can cover in a 3-year contract with a consultant. It is a continuous journey, and it's absolutely essential that we cut ourselves some slack, that it's not a switch that you flip and then you're done. It's something that we will continuously be working on and continuously be working on together. Also, of course, it's imperative that this is inclusive. This is not a conversation for one demographic or one group of people to have. It's really important for us that we're working with all stakeholders, but also all people involved with this conversation. And the most important thing is that sustainability needs to be fun. If you're not enjoying what you're doing, you're not going to do it, especially when it comes to sustainable action, because usually that's seen as an add-on, although we know that it's more of a lens. And by fueling that success with sense of achievement, a sense of accomplishment, and a sense of doing something good, that translates to being fun. And if you're having fun, other people are going to come join you and have fun too. So this is why it's important for us to celebrate our successes and build on those, rather than focusing on shaming or looking at what we're doing wrong or always thinking about how hard this is going to be. Because as a community, if we're enjoying this, that echoes out, and then we bring on more and more allies. So remember to focus on the fun. So I wanted to talk very quickly about Key Culture and what we do and what we can offer to help support you. Now, I started Key Culture because I was a little bit tired of a lot of talk and no action. And so Key Culture, we are a nonprofit organization. While we're based in Amsterdam, we have an international scope of work and colleagues. We have 2 missions. The first is to make the cultural sector sustainable, and the second is to use culture to educate our audiences, our communities, and the general public about sustainability. We do this through various bespoke projects and programs, including the Key Books, which we'll go over momentarily, as well as the Key Futures program, which we're also going to talk about today, and our sustainability and conservation team, which we're not going to discuss today. But if you are a conservator or would like more information, siconserve.org, or just reach out to me. All right. So I'd like to start by talking very quickly about the Key Books. Last year, we released the first 3 Key Books, which are Energy, Waste and Materials, and Social Sustainability. This year, our next 3 Key Books are coming out. That will include Education and Engagement, an Exhibitions Key Book later this year, and finally a Sustainable Tourism Key Book, which will be coming out at the end of the year. And what makes the Key Books special is that, well, I call them our Quippy Guides. Basically, this is what I wanted when I was a conservator. I wanted someone to just hand me a book that would tell me what to do, how I could be greener, or how I could be more socially conscious. And what I found is that there are so many amazing resources out there, but this is my full-time job, and I don't have time to read a 180-page document on HVAC systems. I don't expect you do either. So what was really important as well is to translate the actions into something that was easy, tangible, and clear and short. We like bullet points rather than long descriptive paragraphs. The other part is that a lot of times I'd start reading these things and get completely and totally lost. I didn't know what an EUI was, or KWH, or what they're talking about when they're talking about different types of HVAC systems. So it was really important for us to work with sustainability experts who knew what the solutions would be, in collaboration with cultural professionals who knew what language was accessible and also what was applicable to us as the cultural sector. So many times we talk to sustainability consultants who come in and say, well, just increase the range in your climate control. And as a conservator, oh, well, we need to have a very, very detailed conversation before we make any adjustments like that. So this is where we find that happy medium, where we're actually working together to find solutions that work for our unique needs of our sector, but also present it in a way that makes sense to us. And the other thing is that it's not only a agglomeration of a lot of different ideas and tips, but also tools and resources. So you can find a list of carbon calculators or of great programming to get involved with for social aspects, and it's all in one place. Just a couple examples of the from the waste materials key book. One thing that was really important when we talk about waste materials is the hierarchy. And we always usually see that little triangle, reduce, reuse, recycle. Well, we know that that is not actually a recycle sign, and also that those things are not even. So the key book outlines really great ways to just actually look through all of the different R's, as we call them, the 5 R's. So refuse, reduce, reuse, repurpose, recycle. So really important to know why that is something that needs to be done in order. So this is the kind of information that you can find. In addition to kind of the theory and background, you can also find how-tos. So we have a how-to guide on doing a waste audit. And once again, as you can see, we've got ideas, tips, and things are presented clearly and in short, concise manner. Addition to that, you also have different programs that are available. TerraCycle does amazing recycling programs. Basically, they recycle everything and anything. So their zero waste box is a way to recycle disposable gloves. Once again, this is all presented in clear, cut out step-by-step processes. So this is a great way that you can find information about gloves or about alternative materials. We also have in there a whole list of things that you can do with your synthetic materials that you can't reuse. So a lot of really great resources in there. All right, I realize that we're running out of time here, so I'm going to go very quickly through this last part. Currently, the key books are PDF resources, but we are changing that into a website format, which we launched later this year. And then, of course, we are also connecting the key books with our Key Futures program. So I'm going to blaze through this because I do want to leave time for questions. But we're going to talk about Key Futures. So it's one thing to hand someone a book and say, here's what you do. But at some point, your job is going to catch up with you, and you're not going to be able to dedicate maybe as much time as you want to reading through the key book or figuring out how to do it. At some point, you're going to have a question, you're going to need some support. And this is what Key Futures is here for. It is designed to empower individuals and organizations to embed sustainability into their practice on a daily basis. And this is really a global coaching and training network is what we call it. And the idea behind Key Futures is to provide that ongoing support system for sustainable action, to create networks and community and support systems, and to involve everyone who needs to be part of these conversations. So Key Futures, I'm going to just go through some of the elements very quickly, and then I'll wrap up here. But the idea is to provide support not only for environmental sustainability, but also social sustainability, looking at the financial aspects and making sure that we're looking at system-wide holistic approaches. So we have everything from, glove recycling, individual actions, all the way through to systems change and holistic thinking. So really also looking at that inside-outside model about how to improve our own operations and how to influence our communities. So the program includes a personal coach as well as weekly events. So every week we host an event that's 1 hour long. It ranges from different trainings through workshops or network meetings, global or regional. We provide practical projects that we do together so people can work with each other as well as work with their coaches and the key team. And I'll go through what those are for 2022. We also have created a tailored, custom-built online port for communication and resource sharing. And of course, you have access to the international network, both in the cultural sector and the sustainability sector. So very quickly, the idea is that everyone is a key champion. You are the leaders, you are the activists, you are the catalysts for change. And we at Key Futures are here to help support and guide you, to empower you to become not only sustainable, but leaders for sustainability at your organizations. So I mentioned we have various aspects that we various projects that we support. So things like doing energy audits and doing carbon footprint calculations, looking at policy documents and integrating sustainable language, creating circular exhibitions and circular set building for theaters. So very tangible projects that you will have real outcomes at the end of the program. We also have workshops that go through the various aspects of these projects. So things like we'll have a carbon calculator workshop where we figure out what carbon calculator works best for you. And then we actually do the carbon calculations. We have policy writing workshops where we bring in experts on policy who can help us to incorporate sustainable language into our documents, including collections care and et cetera. In addition to the workshops, we also have different training programs, which include deep dives. There are quite a few different ones. One next week is on behavioral economics. We also have things on climate literacy, circularity, storytelling. So very much going into the nitty gritty of these various programming topics. Our core trainings are based on theory. So the idea here is to give you kind of the critical thinking skills you need to attack or to apply to sustainable thinking in your daily practice so that you can understand how sustainability would work in a conversation about designing an exhibition. So this is a really great way to get the theory behind applying sustainability to your everyday practice. Our regional network meetings are designed to tackle local issues. So you'll be working with a group locally to look at how you can not only create programs and projects in collaboration with each other, but also to address local issues and resources. And our global network meetings are opportunities for everybody in the whole program to meet and share their experiences. We have guest speakers, and then we have networking sessions. I've mentioned the Keyport already. That's our communication platform. Also has all of the resources in there, as well as forums and a user-generated case study library. And then, of course, we have our coaches who are your personal mentors and guides to help you in your sustainability journey. From design to execution to being your cheerleader, your coach is there for you the entire process. And then, of course, you have the key team helping to back up which includes not only all of the people behind Kifutures, but everyone who contributes to Kifutures. So key book authors, as well as the deep dive trainers, are all available on the Keyport for continued conversation and support. All right. I won't go through why this works, but really excited about the amazing group of people that have already joined us, from Museo Moderno in Buenos Aires to the National Museum of Lagos in Nigeria, to the Smithsonian, to the MLOVA in Brussels. We have an amazing international network. All right. I think I'm a couple minutes over, so I will stop there, but really excited to hear any comments, questions. And of course, would love to invite you all to join us at Kifutures. You can apply on our website. And yeah, would love to hear if anyone has any thoughts or questions. And I'm also available to answer questions about other things such as materials or waste, or as Jody mentioned, or Devin mentioned, anything else in the scope of sustainability.
I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about the application process for Kifutures. What are the requirements to participate? Is that's what I'm asking.
Absolutely. So the reason we do an application process is because we want to make sure that people are committed and also that they are in line with the same ethos. Because Kifutures is open to everyone, from artists and gallery workers and museum professionals and conservators through to vendors and suppliers. We have municipalities on board. We have foundations on board. So it's a really holistic, inclusive community. But of course, it's important for us, especially when it comes to companies, for example, that we're all in line with moving towards the same goals. So it's just a way for us to make sure that that we're all on the same page. And then the other thing, of course, is the pricing component. As we all know, our sector is incredibly financially unsustainable. Everybody is always the first question when it comes to sustainability is how much is it going to cost? Which, first of all, is the wrong question, because we know that if we're being actually sustainable, then it's more financially interesting. It's always saves money, even if it's not short term, then in the long term, sustainability is always less expensive, as we're finding out in Europe right now with the fossil fuel situation in Russia. Anyway, so the other thing for us, though, was that, you know, Key Culture is really committed to being able to support our volunteers financially. We are been a volunteer group up until today, basically, but it's really, I want to be able to pay all of our staff and pay them a fair living wage. Our coaches are also paid. So for us to be able to find a way to support this, we have a subscription fee. The subscription fee, in order to be accessible and sustainable, is based on the carbon footprint of the participant. So a lot of people have not done their carbon calculation yet. That's totally fine. We do basically an estimate based on the size and location of the participant. And then we will all be doing our carbon calculations together. And the idea is that as your carbon calculation and your carbon footprint gets down, so does your participation fee. So it's also an incentive to continue to reduce your carbon. We also offer scholarships for those in need. We obviously, the National Museum of Lagos in Nigeria is on scholarship, as well as Museo Moderno in Buenos Aires, and the Green Kids Museum in Kenya. And we have a big cohort coming in from Mozambique, but that's also a really great way to kind of have a pay it forward system. So if you're an artist who is able to, you know, in California, and you're able to also support an artist in Colombia to participate, that's really fantastic. So those are the kind of questions that we have on the application procedure. Basically, fill out the application online. I will get in contact with you with an offer and some more information. And then if you have any questions, of course, I'm always available for a call. And then after we filled out the contract, then you have a membership onto the Keyport, and then you get started with working with your coach and joining our weekly meetings.
Maybe I can ask you a question, Caitlin. I'm curious, given the extent and of information that you've put together, the network that you've grown, I'm kind of curious, like what are your biggest challenges right now? Like what are the next issues that you're trying to tackle as, you know, as an organization?
Well, I mean, the biggest challenge always, as I mentioned, is financial. You know, you guys know at Art and Climate Action that it's very difficult to, you know, have a full-time dedicated staff working on these issues. And the other thing is time. And I find that really interesting because, as I mentioned, a lot of people really see sustainability as a checkbox. It's something that, oh, I don't have time for it, or, oh shit, I need to make time for it. But actually, sustainability is something that applies to literally everything we do. And it's just about learning to put those glasses on and start seeing the world through a sustainability lens. And I think that that's the most important thing for us to do right now. And we have, you know, there's so much work to be done, and it's so overwhelming in so many ways. But actually, if we take a few steps back and start unlearning what we've learned and looking at things differently, it's not so impossible after all. And the other part of this is that it's really important for us to understand that sustainability is not about doing what we're currently doing, but less worse. It's actually about rethinking the entire systems. But a lot of people aren't there yet. And so, you know, as I said, it's a journey, and we're going to get there, but we have to get there together. Because if we have one person who's here and one person who's here, you know, then there's all of this middle ground that's not being covered. And we, you know, it's not, I've always said that sustainability is something that everyone needs to be involved with. And this is why, for me, it's so important to have this program where we can get everyone on board and really create and foster sustainability as a culture within organizations. Because it's one thing to bring on a sustainability consultant or a sustainability director who may have the weight of the world on their shoulders and have to fix all of their problems by themselves. But if a consultant comes in and works with the director and the facilities manager and reduces the carbon footprint by 40% and then leaves, that's fine. But that's not going to change my day-to-day job. That's not going to help me figure out how I can be less environmentally damaging as a conservator. So it's really important for us to tackle this in more of a holistic way, as rather than piecemeal. So I think that that's something that has been a challenge, and what we're hoping that Key Futures can help resolve.
We have like probably another minute if anyone wants to ask anything, and it really can range. You can really get into the nitty gritty here if you have a question about waste reduction, about carbon calculation, anything. There we go.
Daniela.
Hi, Caitlin.
Hello.
Hi, nice to see you.
So I'll ask if anyone is interested in joining the Key Futures conversations, how can they go about joining? You said there's weekly meetings and monthly meetings for community. How can people join those?
Yeah, so you apply for the program, and then you can get involved. You can then be invited to all of the sessions. So I put the application link in the chat. So if you want more information, please fill out the application, and then we can set up a time to chat about it. If you have any further questions, but also if you'd like to just join one of the sessions to see what it's like, I would love to be able to help invite you to do that. So if you want to, just join. Oh my goodness, look at Jody, your baby's so cute. I always get to hear him, so it's nice to see him. Yeah, so if you'd like to just check out what we have to offer, just get in contact with me, and would love to invite you to be a guest or to provide any more information. So thank you, Danielle. I appreciate that. Yeah. And I think that I'll wrap up. I know we're running out of time here, but one thing I would like to leave with, because we were talking about waste materials, and one of my colleagues who she's actually Russian, so I'm worried about her right now, but Ekaterina runs an organization called Moscow Circular, and we were talking about waste and materials, and she said, actually, I don't ever use the term waste. I say resources and materials. And the reason is because when you identify something as waste, you are automatically removing its value. And every single thing that we have, no matter if it's dirty or no matter if it's broken, has an inherent value as a resource. And I just thought that was so powerful. And so we're removing the word waste from all of our materials, and we'll be using just circularity in materials from now on, because indeed we have a finite amount of resources on this planet. And if we consider and label things as waste, then we are automatically removing any value that they have, even though actually, if we think about it from a circular perspective, it has value. Once again, no matter if it's something that's dirty or it's broken, there's a way to clean it, there's a way to fix it, there's a way to redesign how it's made in the first place, so that we can continue to see value in the things that we use, rather than see them as something that's disposable or useless. So I'd like to encourage everyone to think about using the term waste maybe more sparingly, or think about being conscientious about removing it from our vocabularies.
Yeah,
That's such a great point.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Jody.
I was going to say, I think we need to do a whole discussion about circularity, because there's so much great work being done on that from conservators. Laura is here. She is put together a tool, helped put together a tool called Barter Art to increase circularity within exhibition spaces. So I see that coming down the road for sure.
Definitely. And Kim Craxton, who is our materials director at Key Culture, is also on the call. She's also one of our key coaches, and she's really the expert in materials. So if you have any, maybe she can come back and do a session on materials. Hi, Kim.
I'd love to. Absolutely. Anytime.
Cool.
Let's plan it. Let's plan on it. Well, thank you so much, Caitlin. It was absolutely
Pleasure.
Wonderful to have you give the overview and introduction to all the facets of Key's culture. And I love leaving on this note of like the shift in thinking, right? Shifting our practice, shifting our mindset as part of the key of moving forward. So thank you again. And next month we meet on Friday, April 1st, and I can circulate that link to register, and we'll be joined by the members of Galleries Climate Coalition, and it'll be a focus on the carbon calculator. So if you can, please join us next month. And thank you everyone again for being here, and we'll see you next time.